Alright, so in this role play, I'm going to be imagining that I am the department lead at a school in China, and because I'm a Spanish teacher, I'll just say, okay, we're working in the Spanish department. I'm working with other Spanish teachers within a school. So first I'm going to discuss kind of the criteria of the department itself, of how we determine success, and then I'm going to go into good feedback and bad feedback on an individual level. So to begin, we have four main criteria when we are discussing what does success mean for this department. The first criteria is a guaranteed and viable curriculum. Okay, so essentially this means that we're using priority standards and we're using proficiency scales for each grade level to determine whether students are successful or not. Okay, one thing that I really want to focus on is it's very important for us as teachers to always give students a very clear message as to what are the priority standards for the lesson, for the unit, and for the year. What are they expected to learn and why? So that's something that I discuss with all of the teachers that I work with, is at the beginning of class, always try to discuss with them why they're here and what they're doing. Okay? Next, we have intervention and supports. All right, so are we intervening with students who really need help? And how are we figuring that out? So from my personal experience, the best way to figure this out is through personal relationships. It's through understanding where a student comes from, what their abilities are, and then how you can intervene, what they need in order to be successful. Okay. Number three, we have our PLCs, our professional learning communities, and this is very important because we all should be following the same curriculum. We all, if we're teaching the same subject, the same content, we should be performing the same classes, giving the same assessments, whether it is a summative or just an assessment on the day-to-day just to see how things are going. Okay, so we should be doing the same things and we should just be discussing on a weekly basis how students are progressing. And then lastly, we have a focus on achievement. So this is very important for an educator, for example, to see both the trees and the forest, right? Because the trees are the students themselves, are they achieving success? But then the forest is, in a whole year, is what we did successful, and how can that change in our next school year so that we can continue to give the best instruction possible for students to achieve the highest level that they can, right? So you're going to have to see on a daily basis, are students achieving what our criteria is, but then on a yearly basis, right? Did we do a good job in actually teaching our summative goals for the entire year? Okay? So now I'm going to switch into some individual feedback and go into, first I'm going to do an example of what good feedback might be, and then bad feedback. And in this case, I'm going to focus on PLCs. So, for example, a teacher who is having a difficult time interacting with their PLC. Okay? So, here's an example of good feedback. Okay, John, so first off, I just want to let you know, me coming in, new into the school, I just want to let you know how positively your colleagues and the students themselves talk about your relationship with the student body. You're doing a wonderful job creating trust, right? Creating compassion, creating great relationships with these students, really learning about them, learning about their stories, and I can see that you're really invested in your students, which is the most important thing for an educator. Okay, so wonderful job. One thing that I want you to think about is just when you're working with your PLC, how can you try to create similar relationships with your colleagues that you create with the students? Okay, because from what I understand, there have been some difficulties in collaboration with the PLC. Okay, and this can be for many reasons, of course, because every educator teaches in a different way, has a different style, has a different way of connecting with students. Okay, but it's important to be able to collaborate with your colleagues because, again, as we discussed in our guaranteed and viable curriculum, right? Classes should be the same, whether you have me as a Spanish teacher or you as a Spanish teacher. A student should essentially be receiving the same instruction. So if if the PLC isn't collaborating to figure out what does that look like, especially what do assessments look like, then it's very difficult for us as the administration or as the leaders of the content area to determine whether we are successful or not, because there are all of these different factors involved. So some strategies that you could use are, try to build some friendships with your colleagues, like you've been doing with the students. Try to learn a little bit about them. Try to think about them outside of the school. Learn about who they are, what their hobbies are, and that might open you up a little bit to listen more to what they have to say within the PLC, to be able to collaborate a little bit more. I understand that you are very experienced. You have a great track record. And I think, that could provide you with a little bit of, of some confidence, okay, that in what you do, you view as correct. But all I want you to think about is just listen a little bit. When you're in these PLCs, listen to what your colleagues have to say. See if that can change how you think about the classroom at all. Okay, because from what I understand, you're very direct with your colleagues. You like to lead the PLC. So I would just recommend, please, just try to listen a little bit more. Try to learn a little bit more about your colleagues and see how that might change your interaction with them and might change the way that you run your classroom based on maybe some great ideas that your colleagues might have. Right. So lastly, look, you're doing a wonderful job connecting with students. You're doing a wonderful job teaching, which at the end of the day is at the core of what we're doing, right? Trying to get students to learn whatever it is that we are teaching. And from what I've seen, you really are doing a great job. But this job is about more than only your classroom, because you exist in a department. So the department needs to be successful in order for you to be successful as well, okay? Now I'm going to go into what a bad feedback might look like. All right, John. From what I've heard from your colleagues, it seems that you're not doing a very good job collaborating in your PLCs. Okay? We need to have positive collaboration if we are going to be a successful school. All right? From what I've learned, you bring an air of arrogance with you into your PLCs. You've been arriving late. You've been leaving early. You've been pretty disconnected. You like to speak a lot, but it doesn't really seem like you're taking in what people have to tell you. But that really needs to change. That needs to change, and it needs to change ASAP. Okay, and it's really on you. It's on you. Okay, you know what you have to do. You know how to build relationships. Okay, so please go into your PLC, have an open mind, and try to work with them. All right.